Hello and welcome to Quizzy Monday. And to quote Alex Ferguson, quizzing, hey, bloody hell, what a night it was. We had a fantastic Mastermind semi-final, but then we just had a monumental, one for the ages, a University Challenge Grand Final, which was won by Imperial. So tonight's show, let's quickly go what we got coming up. We have Imperial College's team joining us. We got Michael Mays, Max Zeng, Gilbert Jackson, Fatima Sharif. Possibly there is a Felix as well. From Mastermind, we've got Richard Aubrey and Patrick Buckingham. I think Richard might have the odd connection problem at the moment. He's sorting that. Frankie, likewise, will be with us. Frankie Fanko, reigning Counterpoint champion. She won it, I think, last week. Michael Kohn from Imperial from last season is with us as well. So tonight we are going to be talking about the University Challenge Grand Final to start with. And Imperial are going to have to disappear after we've done that. Then we'll do Quiz Week. Then we'll talk about the Mastermind semi-final and Counterpoint. And then we'll talk about Champagne Moment. Enough of me talking. I'm gabbling because I can see in the waiting area we have Team Imperial. And there's Gilbert as well. Let me go that way. That's better. And we also have, say, Michael. And we've got Patrick. Hello, everybody. Now, I have a little something that I prepared just in anticipation. Here we go. After all that effort, I'm glad you won because
Gareth, it would have been embarrassing if we lost.
Well, you know what, Gilbert? I probably wouldn't have played it, but actually, after that work, maybe I would have done. But anyway, look, congratulations, Imperial. That was one hell of a final. I guess. I mean, the first thing is. What did you feel like at the end of that? 5 points going right down to the death. Michael, you must, when you were searching around for that Finnish composer, knowing that could have been critical, when you heard that gong, how did it feel?
Well, I mean, it was good, obviously. Very good. I knew I was wrong about the composer. I just, if it was like the King of Scotland question, if you sit and don't answer, you like he'll wait for a while. So I was like, don't have time, just give a wrong answer and move on or whatever. But yeah, to finally hear the gong. I mean, I think we all had slightly different reactions. The guy collapsed on the table. Fatima and Gilbert had the classic. I think Max didn't realize he was
and there was a professional photographer there, so they actually took a picture the moment the gong went. So you can appreciate those expressions when I tweet them later.
Yeah, I like Max, the picture was of just like Max just not knowing what was happening, and then Max had to turn to us and was like, did we win? I was like, yes.
We've got, obviously, I'm sure you've got loads of congratulations coming in. We've got Shariana Ray. Congratulations, all four of you. Deserve the win. Congrats to Hutchison Owsley for remarkable performances indeed. Catherine, well done. Winners, commiserations to runners up. Evening, your Imperial Majesties. Imperial performance. Congratulations, Imperial. Congrats, Imperial. Foxy Rhino didn't have a clue on a single question tonight, but what a great UC final. I mean, it absolutely was tremendous. It took me by surprise, that gong at the end. And just for the benefit of anybody watching, Gilbert is not kind of ostracized. So, Twitter, The Sun, The Express, don't read anything into this. Gilbert is currently on some sort of choir tour, isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm on a choir tour. So we have a chamber choir here at Imperial, and I'm just we're doing a bit of a regional tour in Suffolk, which is funny enough where I'm from anyway. But it's just a few singing stuff. But that's why I'm here.
Brilliant. We've again comments coming in. One of the hardest finals ever, I thought. Well deserved. That performance was mint Imperial.
Mint Imperial, yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, but once me and Michael Mays entered a film novice tournament, and we had to pick a funny team name, so we picked Mint and March because they can both be followed by Imperial.
Nice.
Am I right, Gareth, that it came down to sundew, that question that Reading couldn't get?
Well, I mean,
I was such an idiot on that question. I don't know what possession made me say Venus flytrap.
But I mean, at the very least, I think you misled Michael into guessing something.
Well, yeah, I think
throw him off his rhythm.
I did that 2 times. The first time was when I said Martin, and then he said Satyagraha, and then the second time, and then he said Venus fly, and I was like,
yeah. Well, we've got Operation Mincemeat coming out in cinemas soon. There will soon be a film about Gilbert's operation to mislead Michael Hutchinson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, we've talked quite a few times because you've been on the stream a number of times. So I guess one of the things we haven't talked about, now that you won, is over the course of the series, what do you think the key reasons of you being such a good team, such a successful team were?
We had a great parent who's with us today.
We had Imperial Mum trademark. Yeah, sort of directing us, I guess. He came to all of our practices and yeah.
I think
I guess
we were a well-balanced team, and all 4 of us contribute in some way to the whole. But I feel like we wouldn't genuinely, I feel like we wouldn't have got to where we are without some direction and some leadership and some pointers that we could have got from Michael K. And I think that's he helped us more than I could ever thank him for ever. And that's just we're all really grateful.
We're going to make people emotional. This is not an Oscar speech.
Yeah, but
But yeah, and it definitely speaks to the approach of choosing the team by specialism and not by just the 4 highest scoring players. Because I was not the highest scorer in that trial, but I fit, and I'm here.
Yeah, you absolutely did fit. Yeah, and 6 starters in, and all 4 of you had got a buzz, which I think backs up what you're saying about being a well-rounded team. Everybody made their mark. Everybody contributed. It was just a phenomenal performance. Also phenomenal, Fatima, was your celebration on A.E. Houseman.
There's a story. There's a
story there.
There's a long story.
Well, not that long. Michael K. seems to think that A.E. Houseman's most famous and maybe best poem is Terence, This Is Stupid Stuff. And me and Gilbert were like, no, it is clearly Loveliest of Trees, Cherry Now. So that is why when it came up and they started saying it, we both were just celebrating to each other. And
we were on the train discussing this, and we were there reciting the entire thing, being like, so lovely, it's so nice. And recently as well, because it's obviously getting towards Easter and we've seen like lots of blossom in all of our Twitters. We've just been like pasting the same poem over and over
Look at
again.
this lovely tree.
Look at this lovely tree. Ooh, there must be a poem to go with it. But anyway, when it came
Sorry,
up,
I got
Fatima,
distracted because they talked about Michael's tweet halfway through.
Fatima and I looked at each other and we was like, "Oh my god, this is our jam."
I did tweet about it this morning because Fatima and I went to an exhibition in Cambridge. I think it was Ai Weiwei, and outside one of the colleges, I can't remember which one, there was a really nice cherry tree, and Fatima said, "You should tweet that." And I said, "No, I will tweet that poem for you, but I'll tweet it on finals day, and then people get it afterwards."
Whereas I tweeted it from the Imperial blossom tree, which I think is a crab apple, not a cherry. But we'll leave that be.
I mean, it was a night of some really great answers. I did think, Michael, you risk coming up with one of the catchphrases of the series right at the death with nomination. It was
Yeah.
brilliant.
I mean, when there's geography, there's a temptation to just nominate him for the whole bonus.
Unless it's flags. When it's flags, Gilbert gets it.
Yeah, Gilbert got the flag.
Yeah. Oh, so weird. That's not my job. I don't know what I don't know what I was doing. Everything that was my job, I didn't get, but everything that wasn't my job, I did. I seem to have
got space
something.
stuff.
You got space stuff in that last bonus set.
Yeah,
That's
the thing
very
is,
true. The flag of Amsterdam is one of my favorite flags, and so
yeah, I have a shirt with the flag of Amsterdam on it. But what I didn't understand was the question mentions St. Andrew's Crosses. So I thought St. Andrew's Crosses in English means it spans the entire flag. So
like a saltire.
Yeah. So like a
three.
What's going on?
I kind of gathered what he
I just
meant.
didn't know what the question was asking.
I kind of gathered what he meant when he said like 3 St. Andrew's Crosses, and as soon as he said that, I was like, okay, like 16th century European city, St. Andrew's Crosses. I know like the flag of Amsterdam has like 3 X's on it, and I was like, okay, I'll just go for it, and it was, which is good.
Now I don't know.
That's the thing is that like. It really felt like a team effort because it was down to that like last 10 points. So if any of us had
if there was any bonus we didn't get, or if there was any starter we didn't get, we would have lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, what's the moment that you thought it might be your day? David the First?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was...
I would say it was a very educated guess. It was like I wasn't pulling from nothing. I was hoping Max would know for certain, but he was like
because I don't know Scotland.
And then I was like, okay, Stephen of Blois. It's a really long time ago, before all the stuff I did in school. I know that Robert the Bruce's son was David II. There's a David missing somewhere. Where can I find it? Okay. I'm going to go with David the First.
I think this was another conversation we had. I think this was another conversation we had about like why Scottish kings are always called James or David. We just like,
yeah. Well, I was like, the first one must have been good enough for another one like 200 years later to be named after him. So.
To be fair, I think David I is actually one of the great kings of Scotland.
I'm not sure if I knew it subconsciously, because afterwards I did read the Wikipedia page about that Davidian revolution and whatnot, and it was like vaguely familiar as if I'd read it before, but like consciously I didn't know that. So
yeah, the main history thing was I pride myself on learning about women in history, and like the week before I was like, hey, when they make things harder, they ask about Americans, right? And so we looked up a list of first ladies, so that was like a few points we could have gotten if we'd remembered Nixon's wife's name.
Well, my brain was just giving me Martha Adams. I was like, no, that's Washington.
Her name's not Martha. It was such a short question. I'd expected that. Like, I think what threw me off is like it ended so quickly. I was expecting some detail about her life.
They literally said there's like this woman who did like stuff for women's rights, who was the second president's wife. And
even watching it back, the question is like super short.
The thing is, it came on so quickly, and then I was sitting there being like, hang on, I've seen John Adams on HBO. I know what this is. and then it was over, and I was like, oh no.
But yeah, you don't have time to hesitate with Hutchinson. You don't have when the question ends that quickly, and like the Fanon buzz, like looking back, I was like watching the subtitles, I was like, oh, obviously, but like at the time, it just passed me by entirely.
And I think we just have to take a moment to acknowledge what a phenomenal player Michael Hutchinson is, and and that team as a whole, and Margaret Ownsley, fantastic. But in the final, Michael brought his A game again, and it was almost enough. And I think I said on Twitter, it's not just his buzzes, but the way he constructs guesses is just so good. I mean, to call it a guess doesn't feel like it does it justice, because he's piecing together bits of knowledge, but he comes out with phenomenal answers, doesn't he?
The way he does it, it's almost like he has a dictionary constructed in his head, and he has like this kind of directory.
To be fair, that is how he learns. He has a lot of those DK like encyclopedias for different topics, so I think that is genuinely like part of how he learns.
Yeah, and he had RNA. They said, "I have no idea." He then just said, "I don't know, ribosome," and got points for it.
Yeah, the Ghana, and it was like West Africa, Ghana.
Yeah, it was quite good.
And I think like that is like something. It's something that makes a good captain, though, is being able to make really well-educated guesses.
Exactly. When nobody else knows, you just have to say something.
Yeah. And
I thought his pie answer was really, really good. That horrible
that was good.
Table question.
I was so confused.
I'm so mad at myself for that question, because we watched it. We just finished watching the episode at Imperial here, and honestly, if I hear that question again, I've gotten it instantly. But in the studio, it's a completely different situation. Like by the time he said like bromine, I had lost track of what's going on. Yeah, especially since it was the final, super stressed.
Yeah.
So, the thing that I loved, Max, was your Thucydides answer. That was so out of the blue.
So that was my. I would say that was my only risky buzz in the entire season.
I mean,
and that was the time for it.
I normally don't take risks as I say in interviews, because I'm a specialist. I know the answer, I don't. But that one, it just sounded like him. So, and I was like, if I don't go for it, someone's gonna.
Yeah. I was just like, this is so vague. It could be anyone.
Yeah. But it was good. It got you off the mark. Presumably settled the nerves a little bit. But you'd played Reading before and you'd beaten them. I wouldn't say comfortably, but there was a nice margin.
They got double their score. That's pretty comfortable.
But I think it was. But in that first half, it was much.
It was the first half when they were ahead of us for quite a bit, and it was like we had to catch up.
But both matches were a game of two halves, but
yeah.
Switched.
But we knew they were going to be tough competition, even if we had beaten them before. We were like, we can't like be comfortable in this final because they're going to be they're still going to be really good. They're going to be probably even better when we face them.
Yeah, the thing is, the fact that we beat Reading caused them to become a lot faster on the buzzer.
We made them.
Also, Michael, I think got back into the groove, because that was like.
Yeah, that was after a few months.
Yeah,
and like, to be fair,
but he did.
That was their third match of the day. They played all of those in quick succession. So the fact that they were that close on having quizzed that much in a day.
But I think it destroys us, but I think it pumps up Michael. I think he gets into it.
He does.
The thing is, Michael Hutchinson has said a lot that. That after he lost to us, he really gave his team a lecture to be really quick on the buzzers. So that's
motivational speech.
Yeah, and that's what they did against St. John's, and that's what they did against Edinburgh.
Yeah,
and that's what caused them to win against Edinburgh.
Did you adjust your tactics at all for the final, knowing?
We don't have tactics. We just buzz when we know it.
We just buzz and have fun. We laugh and confer.
Fun. You like to panic in the middle of the matches. They cut it. They cut Gilbert turning to me and just going.
We laugh and confer. That is our motto.
Get that on a t-shirt.
I think we should.
Absolutely. We were so. To be fair, I was so glad that Hutchinson can't read minds yet, as far as I'm aware, because the art bonuses were much easier than the starter, and we knew all of those paintings. And me and Gilbert had just put the Myron Discobulus in. In our trials that we then ran, and it was literally I was sat there screaming it in my head, and I was like, I hope he can't somehow hear me.
It's funny because when the bonuses were happening, occasionally Fatima and I would just look at each other going yeah, that's the frag. It's the needle.
Frizelli's a good guess, but this is
footballers often talk about, having sort of personal targets for a season, number of goals, clean sheets, or whatever. Did you individually have got any kind of preconceptions about how you wanted to do? You've played Quiz Bowl, you've played, you kind of know how you should be doing. Fatima, go on. What was your
I
target?
wanted to be best dressed.
All right.
That was my only goal.
You've won.
And we have won. That was important too.
But you've won best dress.
Yes, that was my goal with the sparkles.
You were
Yeah, well
definitely rocking the blue tonight. Gilbert went for the knitwear vote.
I went for
Although Fatima's knitwear was on point, may I just add, from like episode 1, 2, and 3.
But so, did you have any points per game targets or anything like that?
No.
No,
I was happy to like get to past the second round, because second round you just like, if you lose, you're out, and that's it. So
second round was a disaster for us. even though the score didn't reflect that, but we came out of the second round saying we really hated the questions.
But so I was happy, like past second round, you get to be on TV like at least 5 times. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I think we just wanted to do well and do
time.
ourselves justice and have a good time, which we do automatically. We have a nice time.
And you can see on Twitter that when you lot go to galleries together and you're doing stuff together, you're not just a kind of a random bunch of people. Well, maybe you were at one time, but you're not now. You're clearly a tight-knit group.
Forged in Zoom.
Forged in Zoom.
If you could go back in time and have a word with yourselves before that first match, is there any advice you would give yourselves? Because obviously there's no point in saying, win it, guys, you've got to win it, because that happened. But, is there anything you wish you'd known at the start that by the end you kind of learned about yourself or about the game?
I don't know if I would tell myself to be a little riskier. There's a couple of things where I was like, there's a couple of times you go for it, but then you're wrong. But I think there's more times that you think.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that's why Chan was such a good player, because he would just go for it. And very often we would be the kind of people who'd be like, is it just turn a question in our first round?
I guess for us, we just like to think about things a lot. Yeah. And they're for me personally, for a long time, it took a while to get out of that thoughtful process into that more instinctive process.
Yeah.
And so it took a while for me personally.
Hello. Sorry, I spotted Frankie down below, so I brought Frankie, our reigning Counterpoint champion, on. Say hello. Hi, Frankie.
Hi, Frankie.
Hi. Oh, thank you. Congratulations to you guys. Imperial, you're absolutely amazing. Well done. That was a really exciting final to watch. I couldn't tell which way it was going to go, but I'm so pleased you guys won. Really, really well deserved.
So yeah, Michael.
I don't know, take more risks and also try not to get spooked. I don't know. You sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I think we did a good job in matches of not getting spooked. There's a bunch of times where I think Fatima or I, maybe not next, we got something wrong and then got the next one right. So I don't know. But then
and in the last 3 matches we have been in, we had not been in the lead 3 times.
We're good at coming back. But I think I when in the last round I went for the music and got wasn't right, and I think that kind of spooked me, because then this time I was thinking, is this Nixon in China? Because I've only heard 2 minutes. I've literally only the bit they played for Mao's wife where she says, "I am the wife of Mao," and that was ago. So
I made a huge mistake on that one, because the problem is when you're there with the earpieces in, I really struggled to pick out the words. There was one incident a few episodes ago where Michael and I were getting opera bonuses, and we got them wrong because we had no idea what language they were singing in, because we just couldn't discern it. So
even tonight, you could hear it took Fatima saying, "Is she saying I am the wife of Mao?" I was just going, "This is another woman in this opera, surely Mao's wife." And she's saying, "They're saying I am the wife of Mao."
So when I listened to it, I didn't really I couldn't really discern the fact that they were actually speaking English and the fact that Akhenaten is spoken in Egyptian.
I have now listened to bits of Akhenaten, and it's way spookier and
I prefer Akhenaten, to be honest. And the only Adams opera I've listened to is Dr. Atomic, so I was like,
Having seen Akhenaten at the Colosseum, it is an amazing opera to watch because the set is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's one of those experiences.
I want to see the bit where they start juggling all the floating balloons.
It's just phenomenal, the whole thing, and it's really interesting because the male lead is a very high pitched, countertenor. So it's very, 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 very high pitched, and it's just amazing.
I think I read a wiki article about that, like how Glass like purposely wanted everyone to be like shocked when he opened his mouth and this like really high pitched voice came out, and everyone was to be like, "Oh my goodness!" Ooh, and it was very unnerving for the audience. I think he wanted it.
We've still yet to go to the opera together. Michael and Gilbert went once.
we went. Michael and I went on a date, and we saw Rigoletto.
The sun can get on that one.
We saw Rigoletto, which I was hated.
Which then immediately came up in a quiz competition.
Yeah, it came up in quiz, and I was on a different team to them, and I just managed to outbuzz the other team, having switched off my brain because Imran was on my team, and he's a much better classical music player than I am. I had switched off, and I was like, "It's opera. I want know it." And then they said Sparafucile.
Sparafucile.
To Sparafucile for the past week. And so I buzzed, and then I had to mentally backtrack, going, "Okay, this is opera. This is the one they saw last week. It's Rigoletto."
It's because
I managed to outbuzz Jacob McLaughlin, who's terrifying. So I was so chuffed.
It's because there's a recitative where Sparafucile comes in and he just constantly repeats that he is called Sparafucile. He is a murderer for hire. He is Sparafucile, and then he leaves.
We've had a comment in here. Michael K has yet to lose his proud dad face. I suspect it's been several months rather than 15 minutes. Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your team did you proud. And I think, for me, Reading's comeback, 5 buzzes on the trot, 6 out of 7 buzzes. That would have been enough to have spooked any team. And it's interesting what you were saying about not being spooked. The fact that you got that last buzz just to claw it back, put yourselves in front.
I think we heard the buzz, and I think obviously Max was buzzing, but I think Fatima and I looked to our left, and I think Michael Hutchinson was buzzing half a second behind Max.
Hutchinson just posted a picture on his Twitter of him on Penny Fun.
Yeah, so I think they both knew it, but again, Max, when it comes
it
to
was down to that last millisecond, and it was, and you can see on the map round that you can tell Hutch is just buzzing on the map round because he knows Max is going to buzz immediately, and he's just that slightly too slow, bless him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was thrilling. I mean, to watch, it was thrilling. To watch your team throughout the whole series has been immensely enjoyable. Brilliant teamwork, good sense of humor, some just incredible buzzes from all of you. And tonight, just again, pretty much the same from Thucydides onwards. Atropine, Fatima, didn't see that one coming from you. I mean, brilliant.
I have a degree in biomedical science. It just doesn't come up. There's a reason I am at Imperial.
All right, I take that back. You should have got that, Fatima. Well done. But it was just brilliant. Point and David first at Amsterdam. They were all fantastic, fantastic buzzes. What has this experience meant to you all? What have you taken away from it as people?
Well, I don't know. People who follow my Twitter will see that I've been posting all of my tweets from several years ago because I've always loved watching University Challenge. So it's just a dream, and an honor to do it with these guys.
Thank you, I guess.
You're welcome. Max, what about you? I mean, I don't know if you grew up knowing about University Challenge or if this is something that you came across when you went to Imperial. For you, what's it meant?
Yeah, I did know about it vaguely in my teens. I don't know. I guess it's something to put on a CV. That's basically it.
I like that the one of the photos we have that Gilbert took of us after we won with a trophy, and it's because it's through all the glass screens. Max just looks like he's fading away. And I'm top now.
I look like I'm translucent. My hair is so bad in all the photos. My hair is so bad in all the photos.
I just remember saying to Max, he was like, "I'm never doing that again."
I didn't realize in that photo though, Felix was there. Felix is on
he's in the background,
and he was walking towards us. Congratulations! Realized I was taking a photo. So in the photos next to them, he's just walking away backwards. It's pretty funny.
Oh dear. So Gilbert, for you, you know, what has this meant to you? You know, do you feel? It sounds really wanky, but you know, do you feel changed by the experience, Gilbert?
Do I feel changed? Well, of course I feel changed, Gareth. I mean, I wouldn't change anything in the world, and this has been an experience that I will never forget.
Well,
I mean,
you've got the
I
phone
said
there.
I said in an interview that Imperial gave me that I've been watching University Challenge with my parents since I was about like 10, 11 years old, and I always knew that I wanted to be on that program. Wherever I was, I had to be on University Challenge. Like, it was the dream to be on TV doing general knowledge stuff, because I've always loved general knowledge. I've always liked. I feel like my parents gave me a good head start with appreciating just things, facts, trivia, just appreciating everything in the world. And to then do it was like the first blow, to like get on the team and be on TV and say, oh, this is amazing, and then to actually win it. Well, I never dreamed that I'd win it, but then, you know, this is just a life-changing experience, and it's just something that I will never forget. Nor will I ever forget or ever leave the people I've met along the way. And I know full well that in years to come, we will find all of us in galleries in some far-flung part of the UK. I have no idea. I mean, Michael will probably take us to the Aberdeen Art Gallery. I mean,
the only good painting there is the Francis Bacon. It's in London right now.
And that's where we'll end up. But this stuff will last a lifetime, and I have no doubt.
I know you have to go very shortly. So Michael Mays, kind of a final question to you. Can you sum up? We've heard the words like privilege and honor, but what it's like to captain a team like this, you know, because a lot falls on your shoulders as captain, decision making, who to trust. But you know, what's it been like for you? What's it meant to you to captain a team just this good?
It's going to be difficult to put into words. Yeah, I don't know. Like I you say like a lot falls on you, and I guess a bit like kind of it does, since you're like the face in a way of it. But like, I don't know, everyone's so competent, so good at their own stuff that like I trust them like so easily that like I don't know, it's not really like I'm in charge. It's just I just happen to be the one sitting in that seat, and I can trust all of them like in their own abilities. And yeah, I don't know. It's just,
and we trust
it's like
you
friends
as well.
now, so it's like I don't know.
It goes beyond.
It doesn't feel artificial or anything. It's just a bunch four friends sitting down and stressing themselves out for some reason.
I know from
here. What are the lights? What are the lights?
I know full well that, say, like, give us like 50 years time, you know, like we'll still be having the same WhatsApp group chat, and Michael message being like, "Oh, I really want to see like the new Persian stuff they have at the British Museum." Just like, oh yeah, just like forever and ever that'll last. So,
I mean, that's wonderful. One final then word to the team, mum or dad, Michael K. When you put the team together, did you see, you know, what was the potential you saw? How far did you think they could go?
So I think it's very difficult to judge this from day one. We knew. Oh, Michael's trying to say something.
Michael said you can be entirely honest.
Don't worry, I was always going to be entirely honest. I thought, unless they're given a horrible draw, and bear in mind some teams are always given a horrible draw, like Bristol had to play Edinburgh in round 2, and both teams should have really been in that quarterfinal. I thought they would easily make it into the quarters. As for then, we just didn't know enough about the series. We knew that there was one very, very strong team out there. We had no information on Reading, but we had a lot of information on Edinburgh collectively. And I think everyone was a bit nervous about them. And after 2 rounds and 3 rounds, once they'd beaten Kings, I thought, right, they're definitely going to be in the final. Edinburgh are going to be the other team in the final. Again, we didn't know quite how good Reading were going to be. And full credit to them. I've found an interesting statistic about this evening, which I'll say in a bit. I think I said it to you before we came on the stream. But during the break between the those 2 filming blocks, seeing the team still working, still putting in the hours and all of the work they've done, I'm probably about to tweet, very mushy tweet about their work ethic and teamwork being, I think, the best of any team I've seen collectively. It was obvious from then that unless the questions fell exactly the wrong way, that they were the #1 team. And it really is a testament to Reading to have got quite that close to them, because in actual fact, if you look at the number of starter questions both teams got in the final, 7. I can't be bothered to count the bonus sets, but they got the same number of bonus questions right. The only difference between the 2 teams was that Reading had 2 -5s and Imperial didn't. That was how close it was. But I think Reading did very well, but they were always the second best team, at least on paper. And from the day one, when they sat down and decided what to do, it was obvious that this team was going to go very, very far and deserved absolutely everything coming their way.
Well, we are. I mean, we've loved having you on the show over the course of this series. We're very grateful for you coming on, giving up your time and sharing insights. And there's been a lot of stuff happened over the course of this series, but it ended on the most almighty of highs, and we are delighted for you, Imperial. Congratulations. Let me just play this again. Just because I made it, I had to play it more than once. So congratulations, Imperial. I know you have to leave. You've probably got celebrating to do. Well, maybe a little. But thank you so much. I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard of you collectively or individually, and we look forward to seeing what comes next. So
we'll be
thank
back.
you very much.
Speaking of what comes next, Fatima and Michael, what are you doing tomorrow to celebrate?
What are we doing tomorrow to celebrate having completed University Challenge?
Taking a
We are
6 a.m. flight to Canada.
6 a.m. to play ACF Nationals next weekend.
Woo. Yeah, best of luck with ACF Nationals, flying the flag for the UK, the UK's premier Quiz Bowl team. Taking on.
I did like the ethic behind it about like the other teams being like, oh, we're not flying to Canada. And then like,
Cambridge got invited. We thought, no way, that's too hard and too far away.
We thought we'll take a holiday.
We'll take a holiday.
Yeah, it's Easter. We're not doing anything.
Well, best of luck with that. We look forward to hearing how you get on. Michael K, if you can keep us updated, or any of you, we'll gladly report on that going forward, because there'll be a lot less going on Monday night.
I will say one thing before we go. After this final, when we were eating some quite sad pizza to celebrate, me and Michael K successfully managed to recruit Michael Hutchinson to our CQL team. So I'm just very, very grateful that he is now on my team, and I don't have to stress about outvoting him anymore.
Yes, we are yet to recruit Margaret Ownsley for any quiz thing, but we recruited Michael and we're having great fun.
We're halfway there.
Another push for CQL for anyone who's not
brilliant
to sign up for next season.
Fatima, can I just say before you go, my favourite moment of the whole evening was you looking absolutely delighted when A.E. Houseman came up. That was so nice.
There's a story. Me and Gilbert love that poem so much.
It's our favourite poem. We've been I think we had already referenced it before we came up there. We were like, and when they said, like trees and poetry, we were like, it'd be funny if the Houseman came up. Ooh.
Meant to be.
Meant to be, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Imperial College University Challenge Champions 2022. Woo! Thank you so much for coming on. Now go and enjoy yourself in whatever way you need to enjoy yourself tonight, and answer all those messages that you've been getting, and just enjoy it, because it's an amazing achievement.
I know my choir squad have made about 6 jugs of Pimm's, so
go drink it.
Yeah.
Chug.
Right. Well, we will now
enjoy, guys.
Bye.
Well done.
So we will now break quickly for Quiz Week, and when we come back, we will be catching up with Patrick, Richard, Frankie. Michael, are you leaving us, or are you? I
should probably head out. We are meant to be on a family holiday.
Well, enjoy your.
Can you come and do the stream? But thank you for having me.
Nick, we
I have yet to
appreciate you.
catch the Mastermind episode, but congratulations.
Yes, fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see you later, Michael. And I'll pop everybody back into the waiting area for just a few minutes, and then we will crack on with discussing the rest of tonight's quizzing. So, welcome to Quiz Week, and if we can see what's happened on All Things Quiz in the last week. Winner of Quizzer of the Week, well, it was a tie between Michael McPartland, who had a brilliant competition in the North v South Curtis Cup, and Sarah Trevarthen, who won her Mastermind heat last week. And Ian Toms, for his nerveless full house that won Pericardium, the Quiz League of London Division 1 title, came third. Team of the Week was that team, Pericardium, who snuck through from third to first to win the title. Second's Neutral Milf Hotel from the USA, who won Division 1 of OQL USA. And third was the North, who won the North versus South tussle. And if you want to nominate somebody for Quizzer of the Week and Team of the Week, go to tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations until Monday of next week. And the what is question competition? The answer was Lush. The winner of the best question was Andy Platt, with adding the letter B to me will give a sign of embarrassment. Adding an F can be a poker hand. Adding a P can be an excellent up-and-coming all-female rock band. And an S can be a driving hazard. What am I? It's one of the puzzly ones. Well done to Andy. This week, you can vote for the best question, to which the answer is Indigo. Go to tinyurl.com/WITQ Indigo. And we'll have a short list to vote from later in the week. Now, on Friday, the Pop Culture Challenge Tier 1 final took place. Just before that, we caught up with the finalists, Dave Gregson, Jenny Ryan, Bob DeCoe, and Lewis Jones, and we had a great chat with them. You can see that on our channel right now, and you can you don't even have to have seen the final. There's just great chat about quizzing and technique, and it's really good entertainment. So catch up with that on All Things Quiz. And we are looking for your opinions on Quizzy Monday. Next week is our last episode of this series. Tell us what we do well, what we don't do so well. Go to tinyurl.com/ATQ survey. And if you want to get involved, you can tell us that there as well. We want more people to get involved with what we do. So tinyurl.com/ATQ survey. The link is in the description. Now, onto the news from the world of quiz this week. And I talked about the final of the Pop Culture Challenge. And 4 brilliant contestants going into the final round. It was really looking very tight, and it was between Lewis Jones and Bob DeCoe. Bob DeCoe just inched into the lead with a fantastic answer on Stephanie Zimbalist. And going into the final question, it was up to whether Dave Gregson's knowledge of the thick of it was enough to deny Lewis Jones a shot at getting a tie, and it was. So Bob DeCoe is champion of the Pop Culture Challenge Tier 1 and gets a nomination. In the Quiz Grand Prix, it was a tough set, but a good set by Nick Paul at the weekend. Pat Gibson won yet another Grand Prix title. Pat takes a nomination. In the Quiz League of London Cup, it was quarter-final week in the Cup and Plate, and the best performance of the night was James Devine Stoneman, the only player to get 7 of his own questions right. He takes a nomination, as do In the Line of Fire, who beat Division 3 champions Banana Splits very comfortably in a week of tight results. And a shout-out to Jason Hill's Bishop's Fist, once perennial losers, and now they've won 5 games on the trot and beat Division 1 Pineapple, Patrick's team, I believe, in the QLL Plate to claim a semi-final against Team. So well done to them. In QLL President's Cup, it was a difficult week, and Sussex lost to Cambridge, but retained their top spot in the table on points difference from London, who are second. In OQL this week, there was only one full house. That was Evan Lynch. He gets a nomination. And in team performance of the week was from Dingo Ate My Buzzer, who overturned a 13-point deficit to win by 5, and all of that with 3 players. And talking of being short-handed, Quiz Machine Kills Fascist played with just 1 player, Will Jones, and if there weren't handicaps at play, he would have won the match for them. So well played, Will. In Quiz Nations Asia Pacific, there was a thrilling final to the tournament that ebbed and flowed. Masochist and the XY Factor tied and agreed to share the title, so they both get a joint nomination. In the Milton Keynes Quiz League, the Victorians from New Queen Victoria Wolverton, captained by Emma Laslett, won the Milton Keynes Quiz League this week with 18 wins out of 20. They take the title off of the hands of the Inquisitors, who had won the previous face-to-face tournament in 2019-20. And a shout-out to Ed Ficek, who runs the league and compiles the questions. And, of course, tonight we saw Patrick win Mastermind. Fantastic performance by Patrick Buckingham. He gets a nomination for Quiz of the Week. And, of course, champions of University Challenge Imperial College get a nomination for Team of the Week. So let's have a rundown of those nominees. And they are, for Quiz of the Week, we need to update this, but Bob DeCoe, James Devine Stoneman, Pat Gibson, Evan Lynch, and Patrick Buckingham. And Team of the Week, Dingo Ate My Buzzer, In the Line of Fire, Masochist and the XY Factor, The Victorians, and Imperial College. We didn't know Imperial were going to win. We just knew they were coming on tonight. So that was fortuitous. Now vote at tinyurl.com/QW04APR. Vote till Friday evening, and we'll announce the winners on Friday evening. So that is it. Apart from to say that next week we will, it would be the Mastermind Grand Final. So we will be here with some of the finalists, and we hope you'll be joining us for that next week. Now, let us go back to our remaining guests. We got Patrick, we've got Richard, and we got Frankie. Welcome back, all. We will. Looks like we're going to run a little bit late, but hope you're okay with that. Now, Patrick, congratulations on winning your semi-final tonight. Before we really look at the semi-final, you had a beast of a first-round heat, not least including Andrew Fanko, who thankfully got through as a high-scoring loser. But how do you think, coming through something like that, did it kind of do anything for your confidence or your preparation? What does a heat like that do to you that maybe a run-of-the-mill easy win, regulation win doesn't do?
I think it does give you a shot in the arm in terms of confidence, because it sort of tells you that not only did you get your preparation right, but also your technique on the day was very good. And also it proved that I could just handle pressure very well. Because when I went into the GK in that heat, Andrew had just knocked out 26. And you haven't really got much margin for error. So I just sat down and I just sort of thought, just do your best and it will be what it will be. But I think a few people have said to me that, that heat was as good as a semi-final. And I think if you operate at that level in the heat and come through, you don't think there's anything else they could throw at you that could be harder. And I think that's actually quite helpful. I think the other thing about this semi-final, it was the subject I enjoyed the most. We had a good amount of time to prepare. It wasn't rushed. I really enjoyed the subject. I watched quite a lot of films, even though I wasn't doing the films. And it just was a nice type of summer. It was just a nice time. So I did really enjoy the preparation to that semi-final. And then, of course, you don't know who you're playing until you get there. And what happened was there wasn't a meeting in the hotel this time. They just came round to get our clothes and they showed us who was in the other heat. And then I saw Richard. I was thinking, oh, God, another person I know.
Another QLL reunion. And that is kind of
what... am I right, Patrick, that we were in, or certainly what was my rookie QLL team, Summer League, whatever the first year I joined. I'm fairly sure was the. When we first crossed. So I've known you as long as I've known anyone in the league, really.
Well, we've both not done it for very long, have we? So
yes, precisely.
So I've definitely known you a long time, and you're somebody I've always gotten well with. So it's quite nice. I mean, the attitude that we took in the heat was we were just going to see it as a shared experience and not get bitchy and competitive and nasty, which in quizzing does happen. We all know it happens. And I think that was the attitude that certainly you and I had, and Marianne and Gary were very nice as well, but I don't think I spent that much time with them. But with you, I talked a lot, and it just felt very convivial and nice. And
you corrected me on a fact I got wrong in my pre-spiel on the World Snooker Championships, and that was the point where I thought, well, if your lay knowledge of the subject is better than my revised.
I like snooker. I liked snooker when I was a kid. The crucible, the great days of Steve Davis and Jimmy White. I used to like that.
Now, Frankie, you made the grand final last time. You had a fantastic run. We didn't unfortunately get to speak to you in the grand final, but you've had that feeling of turning up at the studio, trying to gauge who you might be against. You know what does that play on your mind when you're in that sort of situation?
Yeah, I think looking back, maybe I let that affect me a bit too much. Actually, I think especially for the final, I went into it kind of feeling quite nervous, I think, and knowing I was up against some really, really good people. And I think I might mention last time I was on, I kind of saw Jonathan Gibson's name on something at the hotel and thought, he's ridiculously good. Because I think at that stage his heat hadn't been aired, so I didn't even know he was in the competition until I saw he was going to be in the final with me. And I think that did really knock me out. And I remember speaking to Andrew, my husband. I said, "Oh, Jonathan Gibson's here," and Andrew just went, "Oh, he's good." It just kind of, I don't know. I was maybe a bit overawed, I think. I mean, rightly so, as it turned out, because Jonathan was just phenomenal. But I think, it can be a tough one, I think, because we, a lot of us know each other quite well in quiz. We know who's good and what they're good at, and it can be quite nerve-wracking, I think. Obviously the ideal, I guess, is just to kind of focus on your own preparation and your own performance and not really think about anyone else. I think when you start thinking, oh, but they're really good, oh, I'm not going to be as quick as them or whatever, then that's when it knocks you off, I think. So.
I know from experience that it can knock you off your game plan if you start thinking like that. Interest, Claire Barrow, who was in your final as well. Frankie was under a disadvantage. Your heat was the only one that had been broadcast, so they all knew how good you were, but you didn't have an idea. But let's fast forward a year, Frankie, and you're in the grand final at Counterpoint. Was there anything from your experience the year before that kind of fortified you a little bit for that final? Because again, you're against people who you'd come across before.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think I just felt a bit more relaxed about it this time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did have nerves, but I knew, obviously, Isabel and Sarah, I know, are both extremely good quizzers, and I knew they'd both done really, really well in their previous rounds of Counterpoint. So I knew it was going to be very tough and very close, but I don't know. I think I just had that kind of, I think I maybe really believed that I could win. Or I think when I look back to the Mastermind final, I kind of thought, well, I really want this, but I'm not sure I believed that I actually could beat Jonathan or whoever else there, because I knew there were loads of really good people, and I'm not sure I was had the right sort of frame of mind. Whereas this time I kind of thought, yes, it's going to be close, and I knew any of us could win it basically, and so I thought, well, that means that I can win it. So I'm just going to sort of give it my all and hope that I just edge it on the day. And it obviously, as it turned out, it was very, very close, coming down to a tiebreak. So, sometimes, to win anything, you've got to have that little bit of luck as well, which, hasn't really gone my way before. And this time it just happened to. So,
yeah. And you do need a little bit of luck, but it is interesting, isn't it? What another performance can do to your mindset. We heard from Patrick, coming through a heat like that, he goes into it almost feeling like, well, if I could come through that, I can win anything.
Yeah, Richard, I mean, that's got to give you a lot of confidence. Yeah.
I think Richard, it's something like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I think.
Indeed. Richard, how was it for you then, coming through your heat, as I remember, was a little bit more kind of regulation, coming into a semi-final. Where was your mind at?
I don't know how regulation. I needed to take the last question. Didn't know at the time, but won by a point off the last question in the heat. And there's a chastener there because I'd had a perfect specialist subject round, which meant that in order for us to be in that situation, the person who came second had actually outscored me on GK. And as both Patrick and Frankie have said, there's an extent to which you look at people later in the competition, semi-final and final, when you're more likely to see regular names, but at the same time, just play your questions and just play the seat. I think. Well, I mean, I'm painfully aware that I'm only on this feed today so that you advertising Patrick's name wasn't a spoiler. But then I sort of felt the same when I saw his photograph in the lineup, and I thought that's the spoiler we all need when BBC says on today's episode it's, which I don't know if I thought about it at all, just made it more fun. Patrick was a great guy. We get on well. We'd had a decent day exchanging facts about specialist subject, even bits of tactic, and eating lunch that day. Just made it easy to relax and enjoy.
We had a great dinner.
I'm not just saying this because you're here in the feed, because it's easy to say this after the fact, but because I thought Patrick was going to win. When I thought that made it easier to lose to, and I'm really glad it was by such a large margin, because then you're not beating yourself up about. I watched it back today. There were 4 I might have left on the table, and you can't guarantee you'll get all of those anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just really nice to watch a command performance, and I'm looking forward to. I have no idea how next week goes, so I'm just looking forward to seeing you on again, Patrick.
Yeah, indeed, I have no idea either, which indeed didn't know about Imperial either. So just bonus that they were the ones who came on. But your subject, Richard. Now we heard a little bit about Patrick, and we'll come on to Patrick in a second. But your subject was huge, Richard, and you kind of made light of it before the show was broadcast.
Yeah.
But it was massive. And we've got a comment up here from Paul Thompson saying he did World Snooker Championship from 1977 when he was on in 2005. In hindsight, would you have changed that subject? Because you clearly knew it, but some of it took a long time to fish.
Not remotely. I'm perfectly happy with the choice. I think we spoke the last time I was on after the heat about how so I was on the show about 6-7 years ago, and my approach to subjects, both Yes Minister in the first round and the snooker here, were completely different to the first time when I just picked 2 biographies to learn from scratch. Here I went with, let's do things I know a reasonable amount about already. I think part of it, and I don't know how others feel here, is also knowing what tends to come up in the canon, even in a specialist subject. And snooker is one of those ones that whenever it comes up in quiz and in league, the extent to which things are asked is always still accessible, I've found for me. And I know specialism is meant to go deeper than that. That's kind of the point. But I will say that 9 of the 10 questions I got right today, I would have known before I started revising.
Okay.
And I felt that vindicated, saying I know roughly what they're likely to ask. It isn't tedious second round match scores between 2 players who forgot ever picked up a cue. It was predominantly about the finals, or things that happened to big name players. The only one I dropped that I was irritated about was thinking they're going to ask, pick a list of the top 20 names from the past and learn who they lost to in their last matches. And I'd done that for Terry Griffiths, but then just couldn't draw it to mind when it actually came up on the day. But in every other regard, no, I didn't. I thought you can break it down. Do we say like the post-Hendry era? Do we start in 1990? But that just feels like a bit of a, I don't know, it doesn't feel satisfying.
So no regrets, and you did well. I mean, 10 is a good score anyway. It just I mean, when you got like Patrick, getting 14, it's just puts too much of a challenge in front of you. Now, Patrick, you said in your chat afterwards that you kind of felt you'd learned how to nail a specialist subject. What was your technique for learning a subject, apart from picking somebody who died young, which is always a really, really good move?
Well, there was definitely logic to that, because I was considering some other great actresses. I think Betty Davis was even approved by the question setters, and I veered away from it because she died in her 80s. She did lots of other things, TV and stage, and I just thought it would be a nightmare. So Harlow had the advantage of, as you say, dying young for me, which clearly it wasn't very nice for her.
Work out so well for her.
No, and it's very sad. Her life was very sad. That was the one thing I learned reading about it was just so terribly sad, and yet her films are absolutely brilliant. I mean, the films are rip-roaringly wonderful. The technique is pretty old school. I don't do flashcards or anything like that. I had 2 source books. I read both books first. And then the second time I went through each book, just noting down things in a notebook, and they became my revision notes. And that's simply what it was. So it was not dissimilar to, frankly, how I would have revised for my finals or my A levels. So you end up with one of those nice little notebooks that you can stick in your pocket that has everything in it. And a single notebook has all the facts for the 3 specialist subjects that I did across the whole series. So it's a lovely little thing to have, and that was my technique. And I have to give due credit as well to Lawrence Cook of the Mangoes, because he helped me out. He was the only person in the know, and basically I bought him one of the books each time, and he very kindly read that book and then set some questions for me. And so I had practice rounds of questions set by Lawrence close to each TV recording, which was hugely helpful because it showed me I was on the right track, especially the first time. So I think I picked subjects that I already knew something about. So Francis I, I do know quite a lot about him already. So although I had to read 2 rather stodgy books and couldn't do a trip to France, which is what I was planning to do, a field trip, because the French wouldn't let me in spring 2021, it wasn't, it was pretty dull in a way, but it wasn't hard. Harlow was much more fun because of the movies, as I said, and I highly recommend some of her movies because they get overlooked, and she is a fantastic comedian. I think one of the questions that came up tonight alluded to that, the quote from Mary Dressler. Because a lot of them are made before the code was rigidly enforced in 1934, they're quite racy. So they stand up to modern taste quite well. So I have to say I had a ball with those. The one thing I couldn't do that I would love to have done is gone to the States to, visit some of the places that she hung out in. But in summer of 2021, guess what? The US wouldn't let us in either. So I couldn't do that.
Claire Barrows put, Lawrence, what a legend. Couldn't even get my husband to do that. But
that's the spirit of the Mangoes.
but Frankie, we do know that obviously Andrew helped you when you were on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And he said that you obviously returned the favour when he was on. And Sarah Trevathan has said that you were very kind of supportive of her as well. What was your kind of contribution? Was that the general knowledge stuff, or was that specialist subjects? Were you
with Sarah, you mean?
Well, with either of them, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I think like with Andrew, just kind of because our methods are slightly different. So my sort of revision technique is very similar to what Patrick's just described, with the read old-fashioned underlining, making notes, and then Andrew would kind of go over my notes or the bits that I'd highlighted in the books, and then make flashcard questions out of them and ask me those. Whereas he's very much a flashcard person, so he'd get me asking his flashcards to him for his subjects. So we kind of supported each other in that way, I guess. And then a lot of general knowledge as well. I know, like for when I went on, because I was doing it first, we went through, bless him, Andrew literally went through the whole Mastermind quiz book, asking me the GK sets, against the clock, trying to recreate the atmosphere as much as you can. And we did, like for him as well, we'd already gone through the book, but we went through old episodes and, sort of I'd be pausing it so that he could answer before the contestant answered and that kind of thing. And just generally trying to kind of help each other with GK, I guess. And then like I sort of got to know Sarah kind of, I don't know, maybe this time last year, I think, through doing sort of online quizzes and stuff. And I'm always excited when we get new female quizzes on the scene, especially who are so keen and doing so well, like Sarah. I mean, it's unbelievable the level that she's got to in just kind of, probably under 2 years. I was very excited to hear that she was doing Mastermind and I can't really claim any sort of help in terms of actual knowledge or revision, but just kind of moral support, I suppose. I just always really wanted to see her do well, and was, she'd tell me about it afterwards, and it was great to hear how well it had gone.
She's done brilliantly well, and of course we'll see how far she goes in the final next week, as well as Patrick and a few other former guests of this show.
Can I just do a shout out to Ronnie Jackson in the same spirit, because he sent me any practice sets that someone other than me wrote. Couldn't put my finger on it now, but I remember thinking at the time that some of them were alarmingly close. At least one thing he sent me came up. So it's always nice when people are prepared to take that extra time out. They don't have to.
Yeah. No,
Can I just say something, Gareth, about specialist subject? I mean, if you're going to do a film star like I did and not the films, just be jolly careful, because a lot of my questions tonight were about the films. And I think that's a grey area, and they don't explain it very clearly how they navigate that grey area. Now, it didn't help that one of my source books was the films of Jean Harlow, because there are so few good biographies about her. A lot of them are full of rubbish, but still, I wasn't doing the films, and yet I haven't added it up, but I think a good number of my questions were about the films.
But nonetheless, you got 13. I think you only missed one. Is that right?
It was they gave me 2 questions that I would regard as deliberately tricky, if not nasty. The one I got wrong was a 50-50 in my head. So Jean did a period when she was starting out where she was making the silent shorts. She was with Hal Roach, and they were knocking those out literally one every 3 days. So there's a lot of them, and she didn't do it for very long, but there are a lot of them. And it was the way they asked the question didn't translate to how I'd learned about that film. So it was 50-50 in my head, and I just went the wrong way. And the other one that was really nasty, I thought, not nasty, tricky, was the last one, the Hollywood Review of 1932, because that's just a tiny comment in one of the books.
But it tests that you've done your work, and you had, which was fantastic. Richard, we could see that the knowledge was in there. And in fact, at times you could see the mental Rolodex processing things. So 10 for you, 11 for Gary on Porridge, 13 for Patrick. Marianne, brilliant performance.
Excellent.
That was brilliant. Yeah, I loved seeing that. Her perfect round. It was excellent.
So good. And she'd been really good in the previous round on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I remember. So at half time, Richard, are you thinking you're still in this, or are you thinking 4 is probably, or 3 or 4 is probably too much to claw back?
Yeah. I mean, you try and switch that part off, don't you? It's just not helpful in the second half. I guess it's also when you remind yourself that it's you're only playing your own questions. There's no real gamesmanship to be done. So it is what it is. Just get on with the next round and try and just clock them up as quickly as possible. They felt more tired than anything, actually. I don't remember it being ordered quite as much. Like basically the first 9 or 10 and then stopped both times round. My memory of it was they were the wrong answers were more spaced out. But hey, who knows? Yeah,
I mean, it is funny how the mind plays tricks on you. And Patrick, by the time it came to you, the total was still to beat was still 20, which was the bar that Richard set, which meant you only needed 8 to get ahead of that. But did you have in your mind some sort of target that you thought would be a winning score, or was it just answer whatever comes?
I think it was more the latter. I just wanted to be consistent with what I'd done in round 1, the heat, which I think I was. So I was happy with that. Of course, the wild card for me was Marianne, because I didn't know who she was. She's very nice, but I've never seen her in the quizzing world, and she'd done brilliantly on Alexander. So you're thinking, well, if she's done brilliant on Alexander, maybe she can be brilliant on GK. So a bit like maybe in the heat, I just thought, well, look, just do your best. And I thought, I don't know, my Harlow set I thought was quite hard. There weren't many sitters in that set. I don't know what Richard and Frankie think about the GK sets. I mean, I quite like that GK set. I was a bit annoyed about Sarah Bernhardt because I did know that. But I mean, the point I want to make, and maybe Richard and Frankie can chip in, is there is a strong technical component to Mastermind, because when you're sitting in that chair, you've got to make very quick decisions about whether you're going to answer, what you're going to say, and if you think you need a bit more time to dredge it up, how much more time you're going to give yourself. And it's really quick. And so Sarah Bernhardt, I probably should have given myself an extra 2 seconds and I would have got it, because I knew about the amputation of the leg. But in the end, I swatted it with Colette. And that's an example of what happens in Mastermind. You're having to make those very, very quick decisions. The format is brutal. When you add on the level of investment in specialist subjects and the fact you have to do it 3 times if you're going to win it, it is brutal.
Yeah.
The one of the knock-ons, I think, of the lengthy questions that we've talked about for several years is I think there's now become an assumption that you either are going to know an answer potentially quite early on or not know it at all. And that actually thinking time at the end of a question, there are very few that applies to. So my experience, and please do chip in on this, is that if you don't know it by the end, then the percentage where I'll give this a second or so's thought and then come up with something, that's such a low percentage of the total number of questions you're going to ask, answers you're going to be able to give, that when you find yourself having to think, those seconds tick away interminably.
Yeah.
1 second thinking time feels like 2 minutes, and you feel like I've got to say something quickly,
and that can throw you off,
time, and you look back and you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when I first did Mastermind, I sort of made a decision basically to not have that thinking time. I thought I'll just, if I don't know it straight away, I'll just say something else and move on. Yeah. And I'm still looking back, I'm still not sure whether that was the right thing to do, because there were a few kind of throughout 3 episodes that I would have got if I'd given myself maybe half a second, even maybe a second. And that doesn't sound like much, but in the moment, like you said, Richard, in the moment, if you're not saying something straight away, thinking, oh my God, time's standing still. I've been here for about 10 minutes without saying anything, because it does feel like that. And so and then it can all turn on that, can't it? Who plays it tactically correct, is it right to just move on? Or, if you then, I was pleased really that in the final I lost by 8, I think it was. So it was a big margin. It wasn't like I wasn't kicking myself thinking, oh, if I'd spent slightly more time, I would have got that one, because I could have got maybe 3 more, maybe 4 at an absolute push, but I never have won it. So, but yeah, it is brutal, and it turns on really, really quick decisions.
Yeah. I think the other thing that you see happen as well is when people get a question wrong, it just throws them, and they then don't hear the next question, probably then get the question after that wrong. So when I had that, I was annoyed about that first, the only Harlow question I got wrong, because I didn't like the way they'd worded it, and it was a 50-50 and I just gone the wrong way. And I just mentally said, leave it. And then it was gone, and I just went on, and it didn't interrupt my momentum at all. And I've seen a lot of times where people just go to pieces because they get one wrong. And again, it's about you've got your mental discipline, which, bearing in mind, you're usually pretty tired by the time you get to do this. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, it's a long day, and the thinking time. I think, Richard, it was notable in both your sets that you did take time to try and get an answer, and then Tony Christie, he was there. Keir Starmer is that kind of significant Labour.
Well, Keir Starmer was entirely. I mean, I know we joke about his beigeness and whatnot, but he was definitely one where I thought dismiss the leader of the opposition straight away, because you must know his constituency somewhere in your brain. So, and I just suddenly realised it was a fact that not only had I never committed to memory, but it never occurred to me I didn't know it. So he didn't eat, which is why, mercifully, I think enough people now, even people watching non-quizzers, know the techniques of the throwaway answers. Yeah. Time was, and I had a couple of this a few years back where I'd have got some stick for saying Corbyn. But I think people now know, no, that was his John Smith answer to move on.
Yeah, you just say something and move on, because avoid passes at all costs. So
we know that. I've seen sort of people comment on mine in the past, or other people's, laughing at silly answers that if you're in the know, you're just saying the word.
But you're just saying something rather than passing. Yeah. And we have seen in recent weeks, we've seen in recent weeks passes being critical, or not passing being critical to getting into a tiebreak. For example, so it's there is technique, but a lot of people at home don't understand it. They don't understand it with University Challenge. They don't understand it with Mastermind, and some wild conclusions get drawn about how the game is played. Now we got a comment up here which I think sums it up brilliantly. Marianne's GK round was one of the most harrowing 2.5 minutes of TV I ever saw. Marianne is a good quizzer. Marianne played well in her first round. She played well in her brilliantly in her specialist subject. She couldn't buy a guess in that general knowledge round. And I think it's like you were saying, you know, so you start dwelling on the one you've just missed, and there was a spiral. You know, she kept at it and she kept throwing out some decent guesses, but she got no luck. And it was just, you wouldn't wish that on anyone. I mean, Patrick, you know, you're sat there on the one hand thinking you want to win, you want to get to the final, but I imagine there's, you know, you would not have wanted it to have been like that. You would have wanted Marianne to have been able to kind of put in a good show against you.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I don't really know what happened, because she looked very, very composed and quite positive, but then a similar thing happened to Emma in the heat in the general knowledge, and she was also very composed. Was it the pressure? We didn't get a chance to talk really to Gary and Marianne, because they were in the Mastermind producers are not very nice. They bundled them off onto a flight literally straight after the recording. The recording only finished at 8 o'clock because we were very delayed, and this is a Sunday night, so we didn't really have a chance to decompress with Marianne and just you know. But she was a delightful lady. I don't really know what happened. I think she was probably slightly spooked, as you say, by the wrong answer early on, and it just spiraled.
Yeah, possibly overawed by having a high target to try and meet as well, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes when you think you've got to go at it aggressively, and then maybe it starts going wrong, and then you know you kind of then feel even more pressure.
What did she manage
it's
in
quite
her
hard
heat?
when you're the last one to go in the GK round.
I think she was
And there's
10
high
in the
target,
heat.
you do feel pressure, I think.
Yeah, I think she was 10 in the heat. I'll be able to tell you in a second. She was, you know, say she was a good player. So here we are. 10 in the general knowledge. You know, she's a good quizzer. It just didn't happen for her on the night, and you know, I hope she gives it another go, because I think, you know, she showed with her specialist subject that she can absolutely nail a topic. She showed in the first heat that she's good at general knowledge. I hope she doesn't let that round put her off, because you know, she seemed a really good quizzer and a nice person, and fingers crossed, you know, that sort of thing is it's tough.
It's weird, because I was in the same situation I was in the heat, where I had to wait for somebody else to go to find out if I'd got through. It was Dan in the heat, and it's pretty excruciating, I have to say, sitting there. I mean, with Marianne, I kind of worked out after 30 seconds that it was probably going to be all right. With Dan, the thing you didn't see was that they stopped the recording in the middle because there was a query over his North Korea answer. And so I just had to sit there waiting for like whatever it was, 10 minutes while they sorted that out. I tell you what, I was getting really sweaty and itchy. I just wanted it to be over, and it wasn't clear at that point that Dan was not going to make my total. It was only when it resumed that it became transparent. I kid you not, the things you don't see in Mastermind, you know, things like the interruptions, they can be really brutal for contestants. They can utterly stall momentum of whoever's about to go if they're sitting there twiddling their heels for 20 minutes plus. And they happen a lot.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it can happen. I say I've been in a situation where I've been seeing somebody potentially chasing my total, having them pause mid-round on a question which they said was wrong, and then decided, oh, we'll remove it and we'll give you a substitute, and then they get it right, and it kind of really does mess around with you. But you know, I don't see what else they can do, because they can't kind of get to the end and say, okay, well, we'll just record that 2.5 minutes again, and can you give the wrong answers again, and whatever. Well, they couldn't do that, but so I'm not sure what the answer is. But you're right, you know, and this is where the people at home they see the finally edited version of a show of University Challenge, you know, and people draw conclusions based on what they're shown, not necessarily on what happened. And that, you know, that can be unfortunate when the trolls are out. But equally, you know, when you know there are mitigating circumstances for maybe your own performance or whatever, and nobody else gets to see it, there's nothing you can do. But in your case, Patrick, victorious into the final, and you know, very very strong performance on the bounce. Must have given you confidence going into the final, which we're looking forward to next week. What subject did you pick for the final?
Oh, there's a bit of a story there. I tell you what, I felt quite elated, and then I asked them when the final was, and it was basically, what was it? Not very many weeks after the recording of the semi-final. They're sadistic, I'm telling you. It was about, I think it was 6 to 7 weeks.
Right.
And bear in mind, I don't know what the others finalists had, but I'd had just under 3 months for preparation for the heat and the semi-final. And that was a huge reduction in time. But I also ended up having wrangles with them over the specialist subject, which really did annoy me. I'm not going to lie to you. They are very pernickety about what they'll have. This wasn't because somebody else was doing the subject. It was because they want them all nicely themed. And I personally think that's pretty crap when somebody's reached the final of Mastermind. And it turned out, so I wanted to do a historical figure, and they said somebody else is doing a historical figure. And yet it turned out that the historical figure that was in the grand final was very different to my historical figure. So I had to choose another one, and it was a nice one to choose. But they let me do another Hollywood film star, basically. So it's Carol Lombard.
Oh, okay. Another one who died quite young as well.
Who died quite young, but unfortunately packed a lot in. So she did pack a lot in. Yeah, she did. Yeah. She's another person who, she's quite linked to Harlow, but they never actually acted together. But they are linked by Clark Gable, William Powell, and things like that. But Lombard's trajectory is very different to Harlow's in the sense that she was a real trailblazer. I mean, she really did fight her corner and had a lot of control over what she did, which is almost unique for a woman in Hollywood in the 30s. She's a really interesting character and a very nice person. So that was lovely. But the problem was I didn't feel I had enough time to really go through it properly, watch more of the movies, because we weren't given the time. And that must have been true of all the finalists, that they were having to compromise because they just cut the amount of time dramatically. I mean, it makes it interesting, I suppose. But
as long as it's the same for everybody, I guess. But Claire said 4 weeks between semi and final last year.
Ouch. That's rough.
Even shorter. But yeah, I mean, I don't know the details, but I guess now they're at Belfast. There's all sorts of things about the scheduling of studio time and things like that come into play as to when they can get in studio. But
it's because they want to shut it down, because I think they must use a lot of freelancers. So they want to shut it down, and it basically shuts down quite soon after the final is recorded. They deal with the last bits of paperwork, and then they just go on holiday until they start looking for the next year's contestants around about January, February. That's how it goes. Okay,
well, we will look forward to next week. We have got a very good lineup. We've got, I know there's Ian Wang and yourself and Sarah Trevathan and Eleanor Ayres and somebody else whose name
Alice Walker.
Alice, yeah.
Yeah, it's Alice.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a good set of contenders for the final. Really looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Reading nothing into your comments, Patrick, because
no. I will say this: it's a very interesting final.
Good, that's excellent. So we will look forward to that. But tonight, Patrick, a second fantastic performance on the bounce. Richard and Frankie. Hopefully, we will see you back on Mastermind at some point in the future. It would be good to have you to see you out there again. Giving it another strike. Frankie, obviously, you've got Round Britain quiz now, which is very, very exciting.
I need to congratulate Frankie for winning Counterpoint as well.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you.
Was that something that was in the works before Counterpoint, or did it kind of come as a consequence of Counterpoint?
Well, yeah. So basically, a couple of weeks after the Counterpoint final was recorded, I think. I'm losing track of time now, but basically it was pretty soon after I'd won Counterpoint. Paul Bajoria, who produces all the Radio 4 quizzes, got in touch with me and said they'd had someone drop out for the Midlands. And he said he sort of had me in mind as a potential panelists for a while, but they hadn't had a vacancy. And then someone had COVID, so they needed someone at short notice. And could I do it? And I just so happened to be free. So I jumped at the chance. I mean, I was delighted to be asked because I've always loved RBQ. Andrew and I have listened to it for years. We love it. So yeah, I thought, what a lovely thing to be asked to do. So yeah, I think I had about 4 days notice. So which I think was probably quite a good thing, really, because then I haven't had sort of weeks and weeks to get nervous about it or anything. Yeah, so I just kind of rocked up and recorded the 4 episodes in 2 days, I think. So it was all quite intense, but I mean, really, really great experience. Paddy Duffy, as you know, is of course is on RBQ for Northern Ireland, so I picked his brains for some advice, and he was really helpful and supportive. Yeah, so I kind of, and Stephen Maddock, who's my teammate on the Midlands, was lovely, and just really helpful, kind of showed me the ropes, showed me what to do, and yeah, I don't know, it just all kind of happened in a blur, really. It was all really quick, and I just really enjoyed it. I did feel a bit nervous, but kind of in a different way, I think, to doing Counterpoint or Mastermind or something like that. There's a slightly different pressure, I think. It's not just the pressure of kind of go in and try and win it. It's kind of, I've got to sound like I know things and sound interesting and entertaining. And so whether I've managed to do that, I don't know. You can judge. I certainly enjoyed doing it. And yeah, I mean, as to whether I'll be asked back again, I don't know, because obviously I was just a stand-in this time. But I'd love to do it again. It was a brilliant experience.
You did really well in your first program. You were closeted away in some sort of country house. Did you film them all over about sort of 2 days or something?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it was in a hotel in Staffordshire, and they had a couple of rooms there where to kind of where all the recording was done, and yeah, it's nice, really. It's quite a social thing, actually. It's a really lovely group of people who do it, and everyone goes and stays for sort of 2 or 3 nights in this hotel, and and it all gets recorded sort of over the few days, so it's quite intense, but yeah, there's a lot of kind of socializing as well, and it's all it was lovely. It was really, really nice.
Sounds wonderful. Just at this point, I have to say goodbye to Richard, who has to
Bye,
shoot
Richard.
off. Not getting rid of him.
Well, again, Gareth. Congratulations again, Frankie, and best of retrospective luck for next week, Patrick.
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard. Take care.
Cheers, Richard.
Bye, Richard.
Bye.
Just touching on Counterpoint before we finish. Before I ask you that, Morgan has said, wondering if we're going to see the final of Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz. I'm on tenterhooks. Morgan is currently leading the table with 1 episode to go. Morgan, we're going to do it next week. We're going to save it for the final episode of Quizzy Monday. We knew that we were going to be quite busy with University Challenge and Mastermind, etc. So it will be on next week, and you will find whether you are the champion or whether Robert Crawley will pick you to the post. So that will be next week. Frankie, it was interesting, something that Sarah said, I think, last week, that she would recommend Counterpoint to anybody, in the sense that that it's much more a general knowledge music quiz than perhaps it was previously. My view of Counterpoint has always been there's no point going on unless I know the obscure works of Mahler and things like that. But when I listened to your final, I thought this is just a phenomenal blend of music knowledge and general knowledge, and a little bit of kind of putting piecing things together. Did you go into it kind of thinking this is going to be more a general knowledge thing or more a music thing, and prepare accordingly? How did you view that whole experience?
Well, I knew, because I've always listened to Counterpoint for quite a few years now, so I knew that it was less classical music heavy than it used to be. So I thought that's good for me, because I'm better on sort of pop and that. But then, having said that, I did spend a lot of time learning classical music things. I mean, I really put a lot of hours into that, which I enjoyed anyway. So it certainly hasn't felt like wasted time. I really, really enjoyed it. I've just listened to loads of music, read about loads of composers, and read countless opera synopses and things like that, and just really enjoyed it all. But then I actually found not much of that came up really, or not for me specifically. I mean, probably over the whole series, quite a few things got asked that I learned in my preparation, but probably all the work that I put in on classical music maybe only gained me like 1 or 2 points in my, in my episodes. So yeah, there definitely is a lot less classical now than they used to be. And they said in the sort of, when I first applied for it this year, they said that now in particular, they're making it like more of a focus on general knowledge that's got a connection to music. So it's not literally every question is going to be about music. So I think like in one of my, I think it was in my semi-final, they played a clip from the Woman in Black, and then asked who the original book was by, that the musical was based on, that kind of thing. So it, you didn't have to know anything about the musical Woman in Black, you just had to know it was by Susan Hill. So yeah, I think any quizzer with a decent general knowledge should, unless you kind of happen to despise music or something, then you should, it's probably worth having a go, because there's a lot of things you'll kind of know or be able to work out anyway. Yeah, and it's a really good quiz to do. I think it's really fun. Like, I mean, it was perfect for me really, because I kind of, going into this, I kind of thought, oh, this is like, it's like doing Brain of Britain or something, but without, like, I won't get asked any science or, I don't know, ancient history or mythology or things I don't know about. So, I mean, there are things of music that I don't know about, but, it's that kind of reassurance of knowing that some of my worst topics were not on the table. It was quite appealing. But yeah, I think it's a really good format, because, the specialist topics are always good because you don't quite know what's going to come up. And you've got, they always have sort of 1 or 2 classical options. So if you are a classical specialist, there will be something there for you. But if you want to avoid those, you can. And then the buzz around is great because it can be, like in our final, it's pretty exciting because we were all pretty quick. So it, it can, that can make or break. So yeah, I would recommend it's a really good one to do.
Was it your heat where you were quite a way behind and it was all on the buzzer?
Right. Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because I think you recorded that you were all together, but I think there were at least a couple of heats where everyone was remote because of COVID. And it's a different format at the end, isn't it?
That's
you get
right.
your questions served up to you.
Yeah, I felt like that was potentially a bit unfair on those people. I mean, I don't know how it would have panned out, but yeah, you're right. The ones they had to do on Zoom, I think when COVID got a bit worse again, they just did, you had so many questions in a certain time, individually, but there wasn't a chance to kind of steal from anyone else. No. So if my heat had been recorded in that format, I would not have won it because I had to catch, I was 7 behind, I think, going into it. And then John, the guy who was leading, got 4 of his own, I think, as well. So that, there's no way I could have caught up that gap on the Zoom format. So I was very fortunate there that I recorded it live. But yeah, then I guess for other people will say, they'd rather do the against the clock than the buzzer if they're not as quick on the buzzer. So it's horses for courses. But yeah, the buzzer just suited me, I guess.
How did you feel on that tiebreak question to win the title? I mean, it's like, you're just thinking, is this going to fall my way or not?
Yeah,
right?
well, it was weird because I was convinced Isabel had won because she was ahead the whole time and she got a few in the buzz round as well. And literally, right when the time went at the end, I turned, and Sarah did as well. We both turned to Isabel and went, "Oh, congratulations! You just won!" Honestly, it never entered my head that I was still in it. And then he said it was a tie break, and it was kind of this weird. I was like, I've still got a chance to win it. Wow! And then also it was like, but I've got to do a tie break. So it was real kind of mixed emotions. And then I think I just thought straight away, if I've got any idea of what it is, I'm going to buzz in and say it. I think I'm just going to, I wanted to kind of be more aggressive and just sort of go for it rather than be the one, sort of holding back. And then if she got it, then thinking, I could have said that, So I kind of thought, so it was like what colour connects, and the first thing was a ballet by Matthew Bourne, I think. So I just thought, well, the red shoes, that's a ballet.
Yes.
Not many other ballets with a colour in. So, yeah, I'll go. And, you know, clearly there were loads of other red things that could have come later. So I thought, yeah, that's quite likely. It'll just buzz, say red. And I thought, even if it's wrong, I'd rather do that than wait and think, oh, I didn't take my chance. So, yeah, I really didn't know. I hoped it was going to be right. I didn't know for sure, but yeah.
But it was a good tactic, because if you'd have waited until a giveaway clue, then it's just a straight buzzer race, isn't it?
Exactly.
And,
yeah, so that's it. And I think I'm better at kind of anticipating than reacting. I think, you know, think back to like Brain of Britain, the buzzer technique there is kind of, you've got to wait for someone else to get it wrong, and then it's like a race to who gets in there first. And a lot of those races I lost, and I keep thinking, you know, if I'd been a bit quicker on one of those, I could have won it. But whereas with this in Counterpoint, the buzzer questions are kind of, you hear the start of the question, you anticipate where it's going to go, and you buzz, and that seems to suit me better for some reason. So I thought I'd play the tiebreak the same way, just kind of anticipate rather than get in a buzzer race that I'll probably lose. So yeah, so I felt quite bad for sort of, I felt like I'd stolen it from Isabel because she was sort of in the lead the whole way. But yeah, it's just, you know, one on the finest of margins.
Well, indeed, and a lot of competitions are, but you know, that's the thing. It's not necessarily the buzzes all the way at the count when it comes to something like that. It's who gets the last one that matters, and you did, which was brilliant. And you know, the thing was, you, Isabel, Sarah, 3 brilliant quizzes, but yeah, I think, you know, for you, that there's, you know, there's been a direction of travel with a lot of your performances recently, and it was, you know, now you've got one over the line. Hopefully there are more titles as well, and you know, of course, you got Only Connect and stuff like that. You know, it's there's more to come from you, Frankie. What's going to be next?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I think the last few years have been really intense, quiz-wise. I think probably for the last like 4 years, I've been doing at least one kind of radio or TV quiz. So yeah, I think probably now is the time to ease off it a little bit and kind of do a bit more normal life for a while, I think, because it's quite intense. You know, a lot of preparation goes into it, and you know, I have to feel like I have to put on Andrew quite a lot when I'm doing these things with childcare and whatever else. And I mean, I know it works the other way when he does things as well, but yeah, I think probably just do more kind of quizzing for fun for maybe the next year or so. And then, and like I said, you know, I'd love to do Round Britain quiz again if the opportunity comes up.
Yeah.
So that I would certainly do. But as for kind of Mastermind, Brain of Britain, these are definitely things I want to do again, but maybe not just yet. Maybe give it a couple of years and we'll see.
You've got to wait anyway, haven't you, for Brain of Britain? You can't do it straight
Yeah,
off.
that's right. You've got to wait 5 years, I think it is. So I did it in 2019. So that's a couple of years away anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe by then I'll feel like that's the time to do it. We'll see. But yeah, it does feel good to have, like you say, to have finally got over the line with an individual title. Yeah, it feels really nice. Yeah.
Have you been checking out the Wikipedia page? Because tell you what, I did with 15 to 1.
No, it never occurred to me actually. Oh, I must do that. Yeah. Gaming blue.
There's that joy. So anyway, congratulations, Frankie. Thanks for coming on tonight and checking in. And it's, you know, it's great. We missed you in the final last year, but we're delighted we got you on this series.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would have come last year, but it was I think we were on holiday at the time.
Yeah, you were.
And no chance of connecting. It just wasn't happening. So.
No. And we're
ashamed to miss out on that.
And we're delighted to have Patrick with us tonight, and to be able to kind of celebrate and chew over not just your semi-final win, but also your first round win.
Well done, Patrick. I mean, 2 fantastic performances.
Thank
so
you.
Far, really, really assured and, you know, unflappable. Yeah, brilliant. So
I
best
was
retrospective luck for next week.
I was pleased because each time at the run-up had been a horrible week with things not going right, you know, kind of like, I mean, for the semi, I had a roofer replacing the roof on my house in London and he was running behind. I literally left him to go to the airport. Sorry.
Oops.
I digress, Gareth.
Oh, I don't know. Frankie, you disappeared there for a minute.
I'm back.
Yes, no, that's fine. Digressions are fine, Patrick. But I think we probably ought
Should
to
finish.
because otherwise we will be talking through to midnight. But I'm so grateful to Patrick and Richard for coming on, for Frankie, to the Imperial College team and Michael Kohn, their quiz parent, to everybody who's chipped in with comments. There's been a lot of chat going on, and yes, next week we will have the final of Quiz on a Reasonably Simple Quiz. We will have some of the finalists from Mastermind with us. We look forward to having a very full discussion of the Mastermind final and the Mastermind experience next week. We've also got Jonathan Gibson, the currently reigning champion, by then he won't be, coming on as well to kind of discuss from his perspective, much in the same way as we had Dave McBrien last year. So it looks like being a very good finish to the series. It'll be episode 39 of a very long series of Quizzy Monday. Don't forget, in the comments, you can put in your thoughts about Quizzy Monday, the series that we've had, the way that we do it, any improvement suggestions, and anything that you might like to volunteer to get involved with. So please check that out. We want to hear what you have to say, because we want to make sure that we do better and better. This is a voluntary thing, but that doesn't mean we don't want to improve as much as we can year on year, episode on episode. But thank you so much to everybody for participating, for watching. We will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.